hell are you doing, Karen?
Why did you burn my Cybertruck?
Let me tell you the exact second my blood pressure left the atmosphere. 2:13 a.m. Power surge. Whole house goes dark. Cybertruck app notification. Charging started. Charging. Charging where? Because my Cybertruck sure as hell wasn't in my driveway. I threw open the blinds, and there it was, Karen, in her pink robe, dragging my Cybertruck across the road with a tow strap like she was hauling a dead whale. But that wasn't the worst part. She had the truck plugged into my electrical panel. Not hers. Mine. This psychotic HOA Disney villain had run an extension line from the side of her house straight into the breaker box on my wall. Panel door cracked open, wires exposed, looking like a bomb defusal scene gone wrong. And she was smiling. Smiling like she'd just done charity work. My lights flickered again. Bzzzt. Clang. Half my house shut off. Then she yelled across the street. Your grid was underutilized. The HOA allows resource redistribution. Resource what? I'm an electrical engineer. And what she was doing wasn't just illegal. It was the kind of stupid that makes Transformers explode on TikTok. Before we get started, I've got a quick question for you. Tell us which beautiful country you tuned in from and what time it is. I'd love to know. Alright, so here's how this circus started. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life HOA confrontations. I marched outside, and I swear the street smelled like toaster smoke. Unplug it. Now, I shouted. She rolled her eyes, waving me off like I was some roommate nagging about dishes. Relax. I'm giving your system a purpose. A purpose? Lady, it's a breaker box, not a depressed teenager. I leaned in and saw the real nightmare. She'd connected my panel to her setup using some off-brand universal EV adapter that looked like it came free with a cereal box. Wires twisted, tape melted, plastic sagging from heat. One spark away from sending both our houses to Jesus. I gritted my teeth. If she wanted to play engineer, fine. I'd give her a lesson she'd never forget. I walked back to my garage, flipped open my toolbox, grabbed my multimeter, and muttered, Okay, Karen, you want to steal my power? Let's see how your system handles a real electrical load. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't break anything. I didn't even touch her house. I simply restored my system properly, which, in engineering terms, means I turned the load balancer back to factory expectation. A setting her cheap cables and bootleg adapter were not ready for. 3 seconds later, Fwum! The adapter on her end lit up like a Christmas grenade. Sparks blasted out of her window. Lights in her house strobe flashed like she was hosting a rave. Then, kaboom! Her entire side wall coughed out smoke like a dying dragon. A bluish firework shot straight into the air. The Cybertruck yanked the extension cable out like it was ripping a leash. Karen screamed, You attacked me. You attacked my home. I yelled back, I didn't touch your house. You blew yourself up. She pointed at me with her robe half open, hair sizzling from static, and shrieked, I'm calling the HOA. You are officially a threat. Oh, I laughed. I laughed in pure disbelief. Lady steals my truck, hacks into my power grid, nearly burns down the neighborhood, and now I'm the threat? That night wasn't the beginning of a fight. It was the beginning of a war. A war involving inspectors, fake reports, a secret power racket she was running, stolen HOA funds, and the one slip-up that would expose her in front of every resident. But that story starts now. The next morning, I woke up to the sound no sane human wants to hear at 7:12 a.m. 3 knocks. Sharp. Official. Authoritative. I opened my door, and instantly felt my soul leave my body. Karen, in full HOA uniform, clipboard, sunglasses, hair still partially burned from last night, and beside her, a short, exhausted-looking HOA electrical inspector who had the energy of a man who absolutely did not sign up for this. Karen jabbed her pen at me like she was swearing me into court-martial. This man has committed electrical assault. I blinked. Slowly. The inspector looked at me, then at her, then at the giant scorch mark on her wall behind him. "Ma'am, are you sure the surge didn't originate from your setup?" She gasped dramatically like she was auditioning for CSI. "My setup? My system is community approved. His grid is unstable." My eye twitched. The inspector scratched his head, squinting at my perfectly fine breaker box. Then he saw the melted cable she'd left dangling. He picked it up between two fingers like it was radioactive. Ma'am, this adapter isn't rated for Cybertruck voltage. It's universal," she snapped. "Yeah, universally dangerous," he muttered. I stepped in, calm, professional, engineer mode activated. "Sir," she directly connected my load panel to hers with an unprotected line. She caused a reverse feed surge, blew her own wall, and nearly cooked my truck. Karen stomped her foot. "He weaponized electricity." The inspector stared at her. "Blink, blink, blink. Ma'am, that's not a thing." She thrust her clipboard into his chest. "Write him up. 6 violations." He sighed the sigh of a man whose weekend just died. "Ma'am, the only violations I'm seeing are on your property." Her neck snapped toward him like an angry ostrich. "Excuse me." Before he could answer, she stormed across the yard toward her house, her foot landing in the still wet puddle where the adapter had exploded. Splat. She went down like a ragdoll hitting concrete. The inspector leaned toward me. "Is she always like this?" "This is her on a good day," I replied. He nodded, took a long breath, and walked to her wall to examine the damage. He touched the burn mark. His eyes widened. "Oh my God. This isn't just a surge. This thing was pulling enough current to power a small workshop." I raised a brow. "A workshop?" He turned to me. "Yeah. Your neighbor's home wasn't just charging a car. It was feeding a constant draw. Something big." My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. Karen wasn't just stealing power. She was running something. Something heavy. Something illegal. Something she absolutely didn't want the HOA or the city to know about. But I kept quiet, because if she wanted a war, I was ready for it. The inspector walked back to me with his notebook. "Listen, just between us, I'm writing her up. Hard. But she's already calling the HOA board demanding an emergency hearing about you." I smirked. "Good. I'll bring evidence." He gave me a look. "Evidence of what exactly?" I lifted my phone, showing footage from my Ring camera. Karen stealing my Cybertruck, dragging it like a dead rhino, and plugging it into my panel. The inspector's jaw dropped. He laughed. Loud. "Oh, she's done. Not even close. Karen was just getting started. The emergency HOA meeting? That's where she'd try to flip the entire neighborhood against me. Where she'd present fake reports, staged photos, and a wild accusation that would hit completely out of nowhere. But she had no idea. I had receipts. And by the end of this war, I wasn't just saving my home. I was going to expose the secret she'd been hiding for years. By 6 p.m., the entire neighborhood got the same text. Emergency HOA meeting. Mandatory attendance. Mandatory. Because Karen needed an audience for whatever circus she was about to run. I showed up to the clubhouse early. People whispered the moment I walked in. "Is that the guy who blew up Karen's house? He hacked her power lines." "No. I heard he electrified his driveway like a trap." Yeah. Karen's propaganda machine was in full swing. The big room smelled like cheap coffee, old carpet, and judgment. Karen sat at the front table, hair brushed for the first time all year, face caked in makeup thick enough to stop a bullet. Beside her, 3 HOA board members who looked terrified of her. She slammed the gavel. "Meeting is now in session. We're here to discuss the disturbing attack against my property by this individual." She pointed at me like a courtroom villain. Everyone turned. I waved. Karen whipped out a stack of papers so thick it could be used as a weapon. "I present Exhibit A. Photos proving this man illegally redirected power into my walls." She clicked her remote. The projector lit up. A photo of melted wires. Burnt drywall. Her wall looking like a microwave burrito that exploded. The crowd gasped. Then she switched the slide. Exhibit B. My Cybertruck charging data, showing he increased the voltage intentionally. The screen displayed something. A graph. Colored lines. Numbers. It looked scientific. If you've never taken a science class. I raised my hand. Karen, that's a heart rate monitor. People murmured. She ignored them. Next slide. Photoshop-level garbage showing me holding pliers near her house with "Evil Man" scribbled on it. Next slide. A blurry screenshot of my home router labeled "hacking device." Next slide. A literal cartoon of electricity attacking her house. Someone whispered, "Is that Pikachu?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. Karen slammed her palm on the table. This man weaponized electricity against me. He is a danger to the community. Gasps. Whispers. People looked at me like I had a lightning bolt in my pocket. The HOA president cleared his throat. Sir, do you have any response to these exhibits? I stepped forward. Calm. Collected. Engineer mode. I set my laptop down and connected it to the projector. The screen lit up with Ring camera footage. Karen, dragging my Cybertruck, plugging it into my breaker box, her bootleg adapter melting, her wall bursting into blue flame. The entire room went dead silent. Then the audio played. Karen's voice. Your grid was underutilized. The HOA allows resource redistribution. Someone in the back snorted, laughing. Karen's face went purple. I paused the video and looked around. Does anyone here know what happens when you bridge two live panels with an unprotected feed line? An older guy raised his hand. Yeah. Something blows up. Exactly. I clicked to the next slide. A diagram of the feed she created. Simple. Clear. Undeniable. Karen didn't steal power. She created a backfeed loop. That surge cooked her wall. And she's blaming me because her universal adapter was made from recycled trash. People started murmuring again, but this time on my side. Karen shot up from her seat. He is lying. He is manipulating electricity to frame me. A woman whispered loudly. Does she think he's a wizard? Karen grabbed her paperwork, shaking with rage. And then, she made her biggest mistake. She screamed. I had to connect to his grid. Mine can't handle all my equipment. Everyone froze. Equipment? The HOA president leaned forward. What equipment? I already knew, but I wanted to hear her say it. Karen realized too late what had slipped. Her mouth closed, opened, closed again. Someone asked, Are you running something illegal? She snapped. No. Private. The HOA president wrote something down. I knew then, I wasn't fighting a petty neighbor anymore. I was fighting someone hiding a whole operation behind HOA protection. And she was about to do something desperate, something reckless, something that would drag the cops, the city, and every neighbor into the storm. Karen stormed out of the clubhouse mid-meeting, papers flying, robe flapping behind her like an angry flamingo escaping a zoo. Everyone sat frozen. The HOA president looked at me. Equipment? What equipment is she talking about? I shrugged. We're about to find out. Because here's the thing. When someone admits their house can't handle the load they're running, and then taps into someone else's grid, something big, something illegal, is pulling power. And I was done playing nice. I followed Karen out. Half the neighborhood came behind us like we were all on some live episode of a reality show. She sprinted toward her house, trying to slam the garage door shut behind her. But the inspector from earlier stepped forward like a referee. Ma'am, I need to inspect the area of electrical failure. Legally, she screeched. No, you don't. He pulled out his badge. Actually, I do. Karen froze. Her eyes darted left and right, like she was calculating whether she should run or fake a fainting spell. She chose the worst possible option. She bolted toward the side door like a panicked raccoon. The inspector sighed. Open the garage. I hit the garage button on the outside panel. Karen screamed from inside. Don't you dare. The door rose, and every single person outside gasped. Her garage wasn't a garage. It was a full-blown crypto mining farm. Rows of illegal rigs stacked to the ceiling. Fans screaming like jet engines. LEDs flashing. Cables everywhere. And heat pouring out like someone left an oven open. Someone whispered, "Holy sh**T. Someone else. No wonder she plugged into your grid." The inspector's jaw dropped. "Ma'am, this is 20 rigs. This is industrial-level power draw." Karen burst out from behind a stack of miners. Sweaty, hair sticking to her forehead. "It's a hobby," the inspector pointed. "Ma'am, you're pulling more power than a supermarket." Karen stomped her foot. "The HOA allows personal projects." A neighbor yelled, "Lady, that's not a project. That's a military base." Heat radiated so intensely it felt like standing next to a bonfire. No ventilation. No safety systems. Just raw power-sucking chaos. I stepped closer. Some of the rigs were literally resting on cardboard boxes and plastic crates. Fire hazards everywhere. And that's when I noticed something. A heavy black cable snaking from the rigs. Toward the wall she tried to hide. The wall that had exploded. Her mining farm wasn't just stealing power. It was overloading both our houses. Karen grabbed a rig off the table and hugged it like it was her child. "You don't understand. Bitcoin is going to the moon." The inspector pinched his nose so hard he looked like he wanted to retire on the spot. "Ma'am, these are unlicensed rigs running on stolen power. Your entire setup is a violation of multiple state codes." Karen screeched. "No. He sabotaged me. He ruined everything." She pointed at me, shaking. "If he didn't fix his grid, my system would still be running." I raised an eyebrow. "So, just to confirm, you admit you connected your illegal mining farm to my breaker box?" Silence. Guilty silence. Spicy, delicious silence. Neighbors whispered. "She really just confessed. She's finished. What psycho steals electricity for crypto?" The inspector wrote furiously. Karen panicked. Her last-ditch survival instinct kicked in. "None of this is my fault. He should pay for the damages." I smirked. "Actually, you will pay for damages." She froze. "What?" I pulled out my phone. "Because everything you just said was caught on my Ring camera. And my body cam." She blinked. "You don't have a body cam." I pointed to the tiny camera clipped on my shirt. "Electrical engineers wear them for documentation." Her face turned white. Chapter 4 ends with this. Karen realized her entire empire, her crypto farm, her secret power theft, her HOA lies, was seconds away from collapsing. But she wasn't done. Desperate people do stupid things. And what she does next would drag the police, the fire department, and the HOA board into the biggest meltdown this neighborhood had ever seen. Karen stood frozen in her garage full of illegal crypto rigs, sweat dripping, eyes twitching, breathing heavy like a cornered animal. I've seen people panic before, but never like this, because Karen wasn't losing an argument. She was losing her entire secret operation. The inspector stepped forward. "Ma'am, I have to report this to the city." Karen snapped, like a switch flipped inside her skull. She lunged toward the breaker panel on the garage wall. "No one is reporting anything." Before anyone could react, she grabbed the main shutoff handle with both hands and slammed it down. The rigs didn't power off. They screamed. You ever heard a computer cry? That's what it sounded like. High-pitched, metallic, unnatural. The fans roared like jet engines trying to take off. The inspector yelled, "Stop. You can't force shut a system under load." She didn't stop. She pulled again, this time trying to rip the handle off. The rigs flickered violently, lights strobing red, blue, and then a smell hit us. Burning plastic, melting wires, hot metal. I know that smell. Electrical failure. I stepped backward immediately. Everyone out. Now. But Karen wasn't listening to anything except the voices in her own personal apocalypse. She grabbed a screwdriver off her workbench and started stabbing the ventilation fans on the rigs. Stabbing. The inspector shouted, "Ma'am, Stop. You're going to start a fire. She screamed. They can't take my Bitcoin. They can't take it. And then, the worst thing she could possibly do, she yanked the illegal extension line that used to be plugged into my grid and jammed it into a half-melted socket on the wall. The rigs surged. Lights flashed. A sound erupted. A deep, metallic BWWWOOM, like a transformer having a panic attack. I yelled, "Get down!" Kaboom! A fireball burst from the center stack of miners, shooting straight upward into the ceiling. A shockwave blew every loose tool across the garage. Half the neighborhood hit the ground. People screamed. Someone dropped their Starbucks. Smoke filled the room instantly. Karen shrieked, "My investment! My investment!" The inspector pulled her by the arm. She fought him like a toddler denied an iPad. "Let me save them. You're about to burn your house down." Sparks rained from the ceiling. The drywall above the rigs glowed orange. The heat was insane, like standing inches from a bonfire. Neighbors backed away fast. Someone was already calling 911. Karen tried to dive toward the rigs again. I grabbed her hoodie mid-launch. "Karen, you're about to recreate Chernobyl in your garage." She kicked and screamed. "It's his fault. He sabotaged me." I pointed at the flaming pile of crypto trash. "That's sabotage?" The fire alarm inside her house started blaring. WOOP, WOOP, WOOP. Then the sprinkler pipes overhead burst. PSHHHHHHHHHH. Water exploded from the ceiling, drenching everything. The rigs hissed like angry snakes. Steam engulfed the garage. The burn, the smoke, the steam, the melted plastic. Karen screamed again, but her voice cracked, hoarse and defeated. Her empire of illegal rigs was melting in front of her. The fire department arrived just in time to prevent her whole house from going up. As firefighters dragged hoses in, an officer approached me. "You the homeowner she tapped into?" "Yeah." He nodded, looking around at the smoking mess. "She's in a lot of trouble." Karen, soaked, mascara dissolved into black rivers, glared at me through the chaos. Her voice trembled. "This isn't over. I'm taking you down." But her voice didn't sound threatening anymore. It sounded like someone who just lost the only thing she cared about. And she wasn't done fighting. Which meant the final showdown, the one that would end this for good, was coming. And it wouldn't be in her garage, or at my house. It would be at the HOA board hearing, where she'd launch her last desperate attack. 3 days later, the HOA board announced it. Final disciplinary hearing. Attendance required. Everyone knew what it meant. The neighborhood wasn't showing up for justice. They were showing up because Karen's meltdown had become the hottest reality show on the block. I walked into the clubhouse to find it packed. Every seat filled. People standing at the back. Phones ready. Popcorn. I swear someone brought popcorn. Karen sat at the front table. I sunken. Hair frizzed into a shape no human barber could replicate. Bandage on her arm. And a stack of files thicker than a Bible. She looked like a cartoon villain whose plan failed in the third act but refused to accept it. The HOA president cleared his throat. "We're here to discuss property damage, illegal equipment, and power theft." Karen slammed her palms down like a toddler refusing bedtime. "No, we're here to expose him." She pointed at me like she was casting a spell. I sighed. "Here we go." She stood up dramatically, waving papers like she was summoning ghosts. "This man hacked my power. He sabotaged my home. He caused the fire. He destroyed my livelihood." Neighbors whispered, "Does she think we forgot the crypto farm? She's unhinged. She still smells like smoke." Karen clicked her remote. The projector lit up with a
Why
new
did you burn
slideshow.
my
Oh God.
Cybertruck?
Slide 1. A photo of me standing near my own breaker box. Caption: "The electrical terrorist." Slide 2. A random voltage chart she downloaded from Google. Caption: "His attack pattern." Slide 3. A chalk drawing of a stick figure labeled me, attacking a house with lightning bolts. The room erupted in laughter. Karen went red. Stop laughing. This is evidence. I stood up. Calm. Professional. Engineer brain ready. May I respond? The HOA president nodded. I turned to the audience. So, first of all, I didn't even know I could control lightning until Karen enlightened me. More laughter. Karen slammed her fist. He thinks this is a joke. I clicked my laptop. The projector switched to footage. Karen dragging my Cybertruck. Karen plugging it into my breaker box. Karen's illegal adapter melting. Her garage exploding into fireworks. The room fell dead silent. Then the inspector who had been sitting in the corner stood up. He cleared his throat. I'd like to enter an official statement. Karen froze. She knew what was coming. The inspector held up his clipboard. My report concludes. Ms. Karen illegally tapped into another resident's power. She operated an unlicensed crypto mining farm pulling industrial amperage. She ignored multiple warnings. She caused the surge and the fire. The homeowner she's accusing prevented further destruction by shutting down his own grid. The room gasped. Karen shook her head violently. Liar! You're all lying for him. Then the fire chief stepped forward. A big man with the stamina of someone who had seen too many stupid fires. Ma'am, your rigs were a fire hazard. If that sprinkler system hadn't gone off, your house would have burned down. Karen threw her folder on the floor. None of this is my fault. She grabbed her chair and threw it sideways in a rage. Someone screamed. Someone else filmed. Karen wasn't Karen anymore. She was a full-blown Category 5 HOA hurricane. The HOA president finally snapped the gavel down so hard the head flew off. Enough! Karen froze mid-rage. The president took a deep breath. Effective immediately, Karen is removed from the HOA board. She is fined for violations 14B, 18C, 22A, 22B, and 31F. She is responsible for all damages to her property. She is banned from holding any HOA authority in the future. And due to unsafe, illegal electrical operations, the city will proceed with charges. Silence. Then, applause. Slow at first, then louder. Then the entire room erupted. Karen stood trembling, face drained of color, eyes filling with panic and disbelief. Her last words before she stormed out were hoarse. Broken. This neighborhood is nothing without me. A neighbor shouted. We were better without you. She stomped out the clubhouse doors, got in her smoke-scented SUV, and sped away. And just like that, the HOA dictatorship was over. The crypto farm was gone. My Cybertruck was safe. And the neighborhood returned to peaceful, normal life. Later that evening, a neighbor approached me while I was checking my mailbox. Man, you single-handedly saved this HOA. I shook my head. Nah, Karen saved it for me. He laughed. How? I smirked. She plugged her stupidity straight into 240 volts. And that was the end. Peace restored. HOA free from tyranny. And Karen? Well, she'll be explaining that charred garage to insurance for the next 10 years. The end.